that took place in our history was the building of the railroad tracks from sea to shining sea. The Union Pacific from the east and the Central from the west, racing toward each other to prove which one was best. Iron wheels are rolling down the new build track. Each train kept on going, no thought of turning back. A lot of tired workers laying rails along the line met at Promontory Point in 1869. The going wasn't easy, there were mountains to go through with solid rock to last away. Had to build some bridges too. Across the rolling prairie, they struggled hard each day, and finally came together was on the 10th of May. Iron wheels are rolling down the new build track. Each train kept on going, no thought of turning back. A lot of tired workers laying rails along the line met at Promontory Point in 1869. Quite a celebration, what a noise the crowd all made when they drove that golden spike and the final track was laid. Transcontinental Railroad joined the east and west as one. With its wedding of the rails, a new age had begun. Iron wheels are rolling down the new build track. Each train kept on going, no thought of turning back. A lot of tired workers laying rails along the line met at Promontory in 1869. They met at Promontory Point in 1869.
Profile America, Friday, May 10th. This is the anniversary of an event in 1869 at Promontory Summit, Utah, that symbolized the linking of America's East and West. In the ceremony, a golden spike was driven to join tracks of the Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railways. Celebrated as completing the Transcontinental Railroad, the event actually joined rail lines from Omaha to Sacramento. But the occasion did usher in the golden age of the nation's railroads, which enjoyed a nearly century-long monopoly on moving freight and passengers, linking thousands of cities and towns in the country. Even today, with competition from cars, trucks, airlines, and pipelines, U.S. railroads carry over 27 million passengers a year and move more than 1.5 trillion tons of freight. Profile America is beginning its 17th year as a public service of the U.S. Census Bureau.
We're a great big rolling railroad, hear the diesel engine's power. We're 1,000 wheels of freight train doing 90 miles an hour. Like a mighty rushing torrent with a power you can feel, surging through our nation's heartland on a river made of steel. From the shores of California, where the blue Pacific gleams, to the father of the waters, rolling down to New Orleans. We have forged a span of steel that links our nation east and west. We're the Union Pacific, doing what we do the best. From New Orleans to Seattle is 3,000 miles away. Across the rivers, plains, and mountains, and we're going there today. We were there to bridge the rivers when our country still was new. We're the Union Pacific, we can handle it for you.
Excursion tour. My name is I'm the General Director of our Executive Services area for Union Pacific Railroad, and we welcome you. So I'm basically the housekeeper as well as the safety briefing, because the one thing that we do have at Union Pacific is a safety culture. So we first start off with our safety briefing. We have some individuals that are designated in order to do CPR, as well as we have an AED here, and we have an individual that's designated to call 911. So believe me, you're safe on that. My understanding with talking with staff here is the one thing that we do have to worry about, specifically for this building, is earthquakes. We don't quite have those in Omaha, so if we have one, we need to safely exit the building, okay? So I will, Scott Martin can be the first, and I will be the last out of the room. So I think the building is not safe for earthquakes, so if you'll please follow us on that one. So we have a program for you today that includes a couple of things. One is we'll have a discussion from Scott Moore as well as Ed. I know you're here to talk about the scene. And then we're going to get you out there. So there's 3 things that we're going to have you do on site. We're going to have a picture taken on the very end by the business car over the drum head, okay? And then you get to take that picture with you today. We'll have you walk through a few of our business cars, and as many of our individuals here that have been public have been walking through, they've been peering through them, you get to actually walk through them, so that's kind of fun. And then we're going to get you up to the steam engine, so you'll, the public it's been shut down from a public perspective, and you're going to have some time with our steam team, so we'll break you up into little groups. So each of you, believe it or not, have a designation, a color designation, and I'll talk about that and break up of the groups at the very end. So I'm going to turn it over to our senior vice president, and anyway, Scott Moore.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you, all of you, for coming today. And I know you came with a price, and I appreciate that. You know, the price. I'm a capitalist at heart. I said, I just want that thing full, is what I told them. And so charge what you can do to fill it up. So it's your fault that you paid that much. And it's full. That's exactly what we want. It goes to a great cause. If you've been around here, as I bet some of you have been this week, you know, part of the proceeds are going to the Spike 150 group, who's done this an absolute job. If you read a promontory yesterday, they did an absolute great job. And so helping offset some of the expenses for that effort. And also part of the proceeds are going to the Union Pacific Museum in Council Bluffs, which has that great heritage of Union Pacific that I hope all of you like me know and love. It's a great place to preserve that. So the money's going to a good place. But when we decided that was what you all were willing to pay, we said, well, we got to do a little more than just give them a ride. Let's do a little more than that. And so ultimately, the star of the show here, we had Dickens to talk a little bit more specifics about 4014. But you know, as Maureen said, you know, let's show those business cars. There's not very many people get into. You cannot buy a ticket on a Union Pacific car. You can only be hosted by us. So we'll let you walk through that. And there's nothing quite like that picture off the back, business car. If you, like me, Harry Truman, you love being back there, we'll get a photo. We have a photo that's printed off, and we'll give it to you tonight. So that'll be a great keepsake. You know, one of the reasons that I'm talking to you is I'm Senior Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer for Union Pacific. And so I'm one of the 10 senior staff members on the company. And I'm joined today by a second member, Clark Pompier. Clark, raise your hand. Clark Pompier, he's our very good I'm Warren Clark, you know, he buys billions and billions of dollars worth of stuff in Union Pacific. So he's going to give some G-Biz facts here too. But, you know, as Chief Administrative Officer, I do all of our state and local government affairs, our communications, so all the social media feeds that you've been seeing my team does on the communication side, the Heritage Fleet, the yellow cars, the STEAM program, the aviation, the jets, all of that, fortunately, is entrusted to me. Most of that executive side of the family is run by Maureen, you already met, and so we appreciate all the hard work she does, and it's been great. So that's why I'm talking to you. But, you know, one of the things I want to really say is that, you know, as Lance said in the speech if you were here on Thursday, the Golden Spike. And I'm not going to talk history with you guys, because you probably know history better than I do. And I'm not going to talk big boy or steam with you guys. I got the guy that know the most right here. It's like one of my successful things in life is knowing what I don't know and knowing who in the room knows more than I do. But one of the things important for you Pacific to understand is that as that Golden Spike was driven, that wasn't, well, it was the end of building the Transcontinental Railroad, but that was the beginning of of a great American company. You know, the first transcontinental shipment of tea from Japan was the first thing that came across there. And now today, 150 years later, 40% of the product shipped on Union Pacific is international. 12% comes across one of the 6 borders in Mexico. And so that first railroad, that vision of Abraham Lincoln to not only unite our nation, but become a special trade route between Europe and Asia is more true than ever today. And that's one of those things where you think about the impact Union Pacific had as we, Pacific Fruit Express changed the diets of many Americans, as you could initially at the time ship things anywhere in the world from whatever community you were in, starting in Union Pacific. I mean, it really, as you've heard, if you've been listening to the speeches the last couple of days, it really was a traumatic thing that has just changed America over the last 150 years. And what the railroad is today is a great economic engine. It's one of those things where those 2 steam locomotives that you're going to get it close to, they were kind of the midlife of Union Pacific. It's interesting. The 119, that locomotive weighed 65,000 pounds. And Ed's locomotive, the big one, weighs 1.2 million pounds. So you see how far we've come in locomotive power. But the new diesel locomotive that's parked back there, that's a 4,400 horse locomotive that is extremely environmentally friendly, can move freight and land more efficiently than anything else. The great thing is when you take that simple concept, steel wheel on steel rail, and then you advance locomotive power, what was hundreds of years old technology is more relevant today when it comes to moving freight in an environmentally friendly way, and it just continues to improve. And so it's one of those things where our company today, you know the history of the company. After the Stakers Act in 1980, Union Pacific, 32,000 miles of rail today. We are a Fortune 140 company with $22 billion in revenue. You actually take our market capitalization of today, yesterday, about $125 billion. That makes us one of the top 50 valuable companies in the country. And so that's the Union Pacific of the day. And as we talk about the heritage of Union Pacific, it's one of those things, big company, proud company, but when we talk about the 4 stakeholders of Union Pacific, obviously I just mentioned stock price. You understand shareholders are one of them. You understand we wouldn't be anything without our customers. They're shipping on us. And of course our employees that make it all happen. But the 4th one we talk about is our communities and the over 7,000 communities that we traverse through as Union Pacific. We certainly impact them by crossings and train horns and stuff like that. We ship product, though we don't ship product from all 7,000 of those communities. But the fact of the matter is that we own property in all those communities. We have employees in many of those communities. And if those communities aren't strong, and if they're not fans of Union Pacific, we got a problem. So that's why we have a program, our STEAM program. Before I turn to Ed, I give you a warning, Clark. Give us a few gee-whiz facts. When you talk about how big Union Pacific is, some things some big numbers of what you buy.
So I want you to know he put me on the spot because he told me 5 minutes before we came in here.
15.
Right, so how many miles of track do we have in the UP? I bet many of you know that answer, right? Has everybody heard that? It's about 32,000 miles of track. So my team, I have many organizations, but one of my teams is the sourcing or procurement organization. So my team is responsible for negotiating and purchasing pretty much everything we buy in the company. And that number adds up to between $6 billion and $7 billion per year. So lots of responsibility. We purchase materials from all around the world. Most of it's from the U.S., but from all around the world. One of the cool things that my team purchases is diesel fuel. How much diesel fuel do you think we use, that we consume per year? Any guesses? Now, I want you to remember, now I'm comparing diesel to gasoline, but when you go to the pump, how expensive is gasoline in Utah? I don't even know. It's $3, somewhere in that neighborhood? $3.10. All right. Okay, so the answer, how many gallons of diesel we purchase, it's over 1 billion gallons per year. At one point, you correct me if I'm wrong, at one point we were the largest purchaser of diesel fuel on the planet. I think we're somewhere around number 2 or number 3.
U.S. Navy burns more.
There you go, U.S. Navy. So of course, that's a good thing. We want to spend less and less dollars on fuel, and there's a lot of fuel efficiency projects to do that. Another one, locomotives. So my team is responsible for purchasing locomotives. What do you think a brand spanking new locomotive costs?
$3 million.
Not the 4014. He's probably way higher.
Yeah, it probably is.
We hear 2 million. Anything else? Of course, I can't tell you the exact number because it's confidential. But no, brand new is actually a little bit over $3 million. So compare that to your automobile as well. Anyway, I won't keep going, but my team.
How many are out there? What's your roster right now?
All right, so if you've been following us from a PSR standpoint, Precision Scheduled Railroading, we've parked about 1,500 locomotives. So we currently have somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, 7,000 is a good round number. That's high horsepower and low horsepower. So I'm really happy that all of you are here. I think this is very historic. It's great for the company. It's great for the state, great for the nation. And I'm happy to be here. And when Scott gave me the opportunity to help host you all, I jumped right on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Well, you know, as I mentioned, obviously those communities are important to us. And one of the things in community outreach, Union Pacific has been dedicated to really for forever in many ways, but obviously, as you all know way better than I, 844 is continuous service. And there was a decision made a while back to rebuild the big boy, and the guy who's responsible for that was none other than Mr. Ed Dickens. And Ed, the microphone is yours.
Well, this has been a real fun journey for us, and we've been at it really long and hard. And what I thought I'd do is I'd go a little bit back in time and share with you the story about how this process started. I know for many years, a lot of people have asked the railroad, if you're a rail fan, if you're into steam locomotives, if you follow UP Steam, the natural question is, you've had the most iconic locomotive around, but they haven't operated since 1959. When will or why doesn't the Union Pacific operate one? Well, for 30 odd years, that was one of the number one questions. If you were on our crew, or if you were a volunteer, you worked in the souvenir car, we had a little manila folder, and Lynn Nystrom had written on it in his handwritten big boy questions. And somebody had penciled in there more big boy questions. And so it was one of those projects that I personally thought, I really never thought much about it. In 2012, I was in Omaha on business, and I got a call from my boss's boss, and he wanted to speak to me. We were going through some transitions, and I thought, well, I wonder what he wants to speak to me about. So I went up to the 19th floor, and I met with him, and he got right to the point with me. And he goes, Ed, we have an opportunity here, and I want your opinion. Would you be interested in undertaking the restoration of a big boy? And I knew it was a serious, legitimate question, and I don't remember if I smiled or not, because in my role, I know what this stuff takes. I know what we're up against when we run the Challenger. I know what we're up against when we run the 844. And it's an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to operate these big steam locomotives on this vast, wonderful, excellent steel freeway that we have. But I wanted to make sure that everyone that was going to be involved in that decision really knew what we were about to embark upon. So I shared with him things that maybe he knew, but maybe he didn't know. But I said, sir, this is 2 844s. So we're talking not only twice the fuel, twice the water, twice the grease, twice the oil, complex logistics for planning, bridges, clearances, things that we already do behind the scenes, but we're going to have to step that up. So with that in mind, after giving him a little bit of probably a 20-minute primer on big boys, I said yes. So then we had another little decision point there. He got back to me and says, green light. And I said, by the way, sir, we don't own a big boy, because we didn't. And he simply smiled to me and gave me the biggest mandate of my career. And he was a finger pointer. And he said, go find us a big boy. So I did. The 4014 was the only one that I ever considered. There's speculation that we looked at this and we looked at that. And the internet today is sometimes provides accurate information. But in this, much of what's been provided on the big boy, because there's so much speculation, because it's a fascinating project. So long story short, we negotiated with them, and I met with them, and I asked them, would you be willing to go right to the point? I said, I'm with the Union Pacific, and we would like you to give us this locomotive back. We want to return it to service. And there was some jaw dropping, and we negotiated with them, and they agreed to give us that locomotive back. So we started the journey of getting the locomotive ready.
And 27 is Echo and Edison, is that correct? Over.
Good morning. sign language. Yeah, come on in here. We'll get everybody in here, and then we'll get the lowdown here.
So you're in charge of the Heritage Fleet of cars, or the whole Heritage Fleet?
I'll get everybody in here.
Okay.
I'll do it once. How's that?
That's a good idea.
All right, good afternoon, folks. My name's Scott George. I'm Director of Heritage Fleet Operations. I've got front runner. Go ahead and talk over it. So my teams operate in the steam locomotive shop and the passenger car shop in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Steam locomotive shop in Cheyenne. And so those are my two teams. So hopefully that answers your question. We're going to look at the 5 support cars that come out with the steam equipment. We'll take a look at the diesel that's on this consist, and we'll look at the 2 steam locomotives. All right?
Great.
Little safety brief though. When we walk down, you can see this yellow hose to your south here. That's a live water hose. We're still taking on water onto the steam locomotives and the tenders. So when we get down towards that, we're going to walk on the outside and down. And eventually we will step over it, and that's exactly what I'd like you to do, is notice it and step over it. Don't step on it, please. Okay? We'll have another job brief about how to get up and down the locomotives, but we'll do that when we get there. That way we don't get too much information overload. Okay? So the first car we're at here, this is the, sorry about that, this is the Lynn Nystrom. This is our baggage car. It was built in 1957. And it's named after engineer conductor Lynn Nystrom, who's with the program. He's now since passed. His wife Mary, she's still with the program. She volunteers quite a bit, helps out during depot days, for example, and brings the guys all kinds of goodies all the time. So she's always bringing in cookies and brownies. Bless her heart. So the baggage car, what we mainly use it for is toting around things. Good grief. Toting around things like our stairs on the outside that you were able to see. I don't know if you came out earlier to get up and down. We have signage, caution tape, all that kind of stuff goes on the baggage car here. Let's go on down to the next car and we'll assemble down here. We can provide steam to prime the steam locomotives should we lose full pressure on them to get them up and going. The dormitory, we have 4 bedrooms in there. Ed Dickens, you guys all know Ed, you heard from him today. He's actually got a bedroom in here, and this is where he sleeps. He never leaves the train, except to do speeches and whatnot, but he sleeps with the train, so his bed's on there, the boiler dormitory. All right, let's head on down to the next one. Yeah, let's stop right here. I forgot to add that Howard Fogg was a famous painter, so that's how that one was designated. We took Howard Fogg, did a lot of painting, so that's where Howard Fogg came from. So this car is the Art Lockman. It was built in 1962. This is our rolling machine shop. This is our tool car. And Art Lockman's still alive. He's in Cheyenne. He was a roundhouse foreman for the steam program for quite a while. And he comes out and sees his car a lot. And his son still works for us, Bob Lockman. He's out in the car department in the fuel rack out there in Cheyenne. So this is our rolling tool car. And from here forward back, this is a little break area for the guys. So they've got a place to sit down while we're around the road. And they've got a fridge and freezer in there, and they make food for themselves. Come on down, we'll take a look at the next one.
Yeah, we drove it to Great Stage to see what the excursion would be like. I haven't driven that, and I was like, wow. All right, so we're just gonna kind of wait here until the rest of the group meets up with us.
Most of the equipment you're going to see on today's train and tomorrow's train was built in the 1950s. When we get done here, we're going to go up the steps to the right. We're going to go through the power car. There's a hallway there. In the 1980s, the railroad went from the old steam and battery power system on a passenger car to a full electrical system. And this car has a diesel engine in it that runs a generator that produces electricity for the entire train. We go through this car, like I said, the hallway, you get down to the other end of the hallway, it's a little noisy, but we're just passing through this car. The next car down is the City of Denver. That's a full diner. The City of Denver was a premier streamlined train on the Union Pacific between Denver and Chicago. It was called the City of Denver. When you first enter it, you're going to see a full kitchen. All food was prepared from scratch in that kitchen. Beyond the kitchen is the dining room. And tonight they're setting up for a dinner, so you're going to see the place settings as what they appeared like in the 1950s. The next car down is a dome lounge named Walter Dean. Walter Dean was a bartender, steward on a Union Pacific passenger train, City of Los Angeles. After 1971, when Amtrak took over the passenger train systems, Walter transferred to the business car, being a waiter in a dining car steward. He retired in the late 1980s, and on his retirement, the railroad renamed the car in his name, in his honor. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. In the 1980s, it was refurbished, and it looks beautiful. The business car toward the end, which you're going to be having after this tour, was one of two cars that originally were built as coaches in 1950. They weren't in service for more than a year. Then they took these two coaches, went to the Omaha shops and totally rebuilt them into business cars. One of the cars was named Arden, and that was assigned to the corporate offices in New York City. The name Arden reflects the Arden Estates, which was from the Harriman estate, where the Harriman family lived in New York. E.H. Harriman, of course, bought the railroad at the turn of the century. After his death, his son Roland took over the management of the railroad and was on the board of directors way into almost the late 1970s. It was one of the two cars. The other car was a car numbered 100, and it was built for the president of the railroad, A.E. Stoddard. The unique thing about these two cars is that the railing on the back of it is the standard Pullman horizontal railing. It's the only two business cars in the UP fleet that has that type of railing system. The rest of them have what they call the streamlined system, which is a horizontal, vertical railing system. So again, we're going to come into the car, go to the right, down the hallway, and into the diner. Be careful getting on. Here's a handrail right here. Take your time getting on and enjoy these two beautiful railroad cars.
Just keep going into the diner.
Yeah, just keep.
Nothing like the smell of a business card.
lot smaller. Their kitchen's a lot smaller. Yes.
I didn't mean 50.
Yes. Welcome on board, guys. Welcome aboard.
So what are you doing?
I am the manager of the food service team, so all the stewards and the chefs. I manage all that every time we have. Basically, I manage the hotel and the kitchen on the rails. Yes, sir. We still have some.
Hello.
Sir, how are you?
Very, very good yourself.
Hello, sir. Like that hat.
But all of the silver and china is still passenger service, not the 1950s. Yeah, I don't know about that. I've not heard of it. I've not heard that yet. It's a big deal. Could be like the excursion that it represented. Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. I'm not saying he was, or I'm not saying he wasn't, but.
Yep. Oh, okay. Wow. I bet that was stock that's still for passenger services or Streamliner. Some of our oldest is like American China.
It's not silver, is it?
If you don't mind.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Business car is like first class.
Business car is it's a diner. It has a dining room table. It has a living room. It has bedrooms. It's like all in one.
Oh, I
and
see.
that's what our chairman, CEO, that's what he rides in. And then actually his is the car that's at the very end of this train, the St. Louis. Yes, yeah. His has its own kitchen.
Well, this is the Walter Dean card. Yeah, this is the black card. Here, you guys stand right here.
Walter. It's our boy Walter.
Doug's doing Nevada.
If I'm not mistaken, this was on the Bush funeral train too.
Was it?
I think. I don't know.
So, here is the observation.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be great if we share there.
Fun.
Mm-hmm. Very.
There was a time.
Yeah, very high end.
Still fun, right?
Pardon me.
Until the rest of these ones come
44, yes. I'm supposed to be riding behind 844.
Oh, no, you're not behind. You were
But I'll
the
get to
lead.
tomorrow.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Now, you tell all those hot shots in here tonight. You tell all those hot shots in here tonight?
In here?
Yeah. Okay, I was mistaken.
Okay, all right. All right.
You're good.
Hello.
How you doing?
Very well. I understand.
Sit down in the belly, look at some more pictures.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
One more time.
I don't know. We're going to try to take off right on time. So enjoy the view, be comfortable, but I want you to remember a couple of safety standards. When you move about the train, It's always a good idea to always keep your hands on the handrest. And for you guys, when you go down the steps, there's hand railings. Hold on to both sides. There's hand railings going down below to the restrooms. Same thing, just always hold on. If you go in between cars, always step over the parts that are moving like this. You're welcome to go back to the experience car after the train moves, or you can stay up here or do anything you wish. If you have any problems, just let me know.
Thank you, sir.
Drive safely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that has the happy ashes.
Still never tasted his wine.
I read that story yesterday.
So what, like these whole
Family was so overwhelmed, they just never thought they would do it, and they just happened upon the right person that said, I'm not sure that happened.
Union Pacific, Chicago Northwestern, all coach economy train that actually dates back to the late Depression, the 1930s. It ran until 1971 when Amtrak took over the nation's passenger system. This is a coach car. The car was open to anyone on the train, coach, Pullman, whatever. One of the things that people remark about is the wide seating, better than any first-class seating on any airline. The locomotive pulling our train is the Big Boy. It's the largest steam locomotive in the world, built in 1941 at the American Locomotive Works, ALCO, in Schenectady, New York. It's named the Big Boy. One of the employees looked at that locomotive as he was helping to build it, and he said, "That is one big boy." And somebody chalked it up on the front of the locomotive. The railroad was going to call these the large locomotives the Wasatch class. Never made it. It's always been the Big Boy. It was retired about 1958 when the UP was phasing out the last of the steam locomotives. It went to Pomona, California, to a park, was stuffed and mounted there for about 50 years. And then in connection with the 150th celebration, UP made an arrangement. They traded some other equipment for this locomotive, brought it back, towed it through Ogden, went to Cheyenne to the locomotive shops, was completely rebuilt. You are riding its maiden revenue run with passengers. How cool is that? Of course, you paid for it too. Think of it. Built in 1941, ran until about 1958. None of the people who built it, who worked on it, the engineers, firemen, shopmen, whatever, are probably alive anymore. And if they are, they don't remember. The other locomotive, the 844, was built in 1944. It's the last steam locomotive that Union Pacific purchased. As they were phasing out steam locomotives, someone had the foresight to say, don't scrap this one. And they tucked it away in a roundhouse for a while, brought it back out, rebuilt it, and it's been in excursion service ever since. It's the one steam locomotive for a major railroad that has never been retired. So it's surrounded by 8,000 diesels and this one beautiful steam locomotive. Enjoy the ride.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I grew up naive. There's people in the overpass.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the overpass.
It's hoping to get steam.
That's great.
No problems.
All right, enjoy the view.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, they know that don't just be right over the tracks.
I always wanted to take the Empire Building, which goes from Chicago last 4 days, and get to sweep the car. So they can see us for sure.
Oh, it's dark. Pitch black. Can't see.
Where's the light?
Above your head. There's lights above your head.
Oh, hands up.
Hands up.
Yeah, I think this is the longest tunnel on the UP.
I see the light. Welcome.
seconds. I look backwards. There's some tickets up there for 2 hours later.
This is what I built on my rig. So it's
Yeah.
it's doing all this
Were you in the backup lineup with the cars?
We were in a bus. We got there on time.
Good.
Yeah.
They let the buses go through.
That's okay.
This is great. Well, goodbye.
Yeah, fine. Don't worry.
The rolling roadblock has begun.
Yeah. That's a lot of colors.
I want to get your money's worth, so.
There was 2 trucks there. They had loudspeakers on those. This is not a parking lot. I looked. Yeah, I'll be surprised if they don't start getting these
This
ones
is
on
cool.
the
They
side.
all travel in the same speed as the train.
Yeah,
It's the slowest you've ever seen them on the interstate.
Big is it?
Creating a major traffic.
Yeah, our boys in the mail there.
It speaks in the words anyway.
They're 31 years.
Telling them where to go.
You see him up there? He
Yeah.
just came. He just flew through the. He's flying right toward us. You see him?
Another drone?
No.
Just hanging up there by the side of the mountain. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Look, it's hard to love that whole big rock spat.
See how narrow this is? It's been really tricky to cut that.
You get to a place called Devil's Slide. There's a big rock formation.
That's where it all starts.
On that side. 100 miles up.
It's the main highway.
Going to Devil's Slide.
Yeah, it's 84.
Is it 84? Okay, thank you.
It's actually fun.
Oh, there's a big picture of
Boobies are right there.
Oh, yeah, like those digital signs. Look at that one.
It's a big deal, right?
Yeah, you guys ever go through Evanston sometime, and you can hang out and check out the roundhouse engine facility that was rebuilt there. We put a lot into that. It's, yeah, it's really nice.
So we're trying to
Spring melt.
Oh, my wife's
Well, until next time, everyone. Bye bye.
Raise your feet.
You just did that crossing state lines. I've never
Oh.
heard of that going through tunnels.
No.
Is that supposed to be like
Wow.
hold your breath?
Well, at least it cleared.
That's what it's like. No, put your hands down back on the wheel. You're not supposed to put your hands up. The kids are yelling from the back seat.
There was a time when my dad had a soldier son.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And so then we got like, yeah, and then we just probably hold your breath, basically.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
really tell, but, yeah, and then he literally just told me that. I'll just make sure.
Were they? No.
The crowd's gonna be fantastic.
You're fine.
I'm interested to see how tight the curve
Advanced learning there.
The caps?
The caps out on the board started that way.
Yeah.
So.
No, I like them very. And Smokey, her daughter. Or,
Yes.
I think it's Smokey.
Wow, look at the people. That's
train has to slow down quite a bit.
I'm shocked when you got together to organize it. No, actually, yeah.
I will suggest a couple of things. One, if even if it wasn't for the big one, if it's just steam and it wasn't for this, for your celebration, there would be this many.
Thank you, Morgan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All you have to do is go back and see what you can find on YouTube. Various steam locomotive trips.
She's find another one doing it.
All right, by 611, she's going to be in Strasbourg. A lot of those are selling. Which one?
Yeah, Ambrose. Stephen Ambrose? Yeah, I think I have. I haven't read it, so I need to.
It's a worthwhile read.
Letter sweater. Letter sweater. The marble ice.
So fun.
Yeah, this is Taggart's right here on the left.
See, there's the light went red, but
Yeah.
and the other side, because there's no train coming or anything, it won't show anything.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
This is so good.
Come on.
I was a mom. What was wrong with you?
Another? It's another tunnel.
Another tunnel.
This one's longer.
This is even darker.
Yeah, it is, isn't
Now
it?
watch him throttle up going out the other side.
Look how high the river is.
Yeah, it's really up in there. I was looking at
This is the original half pipe.
That's the original half pipe.
I'm pretty sure I've never seen this before.
Now the 1,000-mile tree. Do you know where the 1,000-mile tree is?
For us, everybody follows the train and we did a U-turn and went that swing up there and stayed right back over. No traffic.
Wyoming. Wyoming will take over. There won't be any cars on the shoulder.
Key on here. Okay, share the view, guys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The kids still like it.
Can't be a little forcer with him for the hog. He's been hogging all day.
Renee. Nobody can take a picture because he's snapping.
Does anybody else want?
There's an old tunnel.
Oh, it's an old tunnel. I thought we were.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So then they did this cut and stuff.
Community building now for wedding receptions and stuff, and that's the old power generation station right there.
Yeah, it's amazing they're out on
They'll use
the out in the yard. That's crazy. Where are the bulls when you want them?
Honey, it's gonna fall off.
Yeah, I know. Who knows? Whatever makes it profitable.
Same thing at our area. When we got a security concern, the nearest cop's 80 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just crazy.
Well,
There's all kinds of liability out here.
Well, for the state of Michigan,
How close they are.
for the state of Michigan, for our line, we got free, the whole state.
And then standing on the freeways.
Well,
Look, oh my God, I didn't realize how close they were down there.
yeah, but I mean, crossing, they could trip on the rail and it's you trip on it, it's usually your face that hits the opposite side.
But holding babies up next to it, my goodness.
Yeah. And we're going to be backing down.
Down that one?
Yeah, we're going to back down. So someone's going to have to clear out the
They don't
folks.
have like the Utah National Guard or
No,
something.
we're in Wyoming now, but
Oh,
we
right.
would have thought that the UP railroad guy police would be here.
Yeah, this is a news.
To say the least.
Even up on the company trucks.
Grab a tool while you're there.
Yeah.
No, don't think they
No,
are.
I think we're taking buses here to the buses.
Oh, yeah.
Those are logistics. I like all that.
I was trying to find my old stuff when I got home yesterday.
The last time I was on the train, there were no open buses.
Phone numbers to call and writing all that stuff, so I just shredded it all.
In 2002.
That's it, we're done.
Yeah,
We got to keep them open then too.
If I want to get something.
Stop.
no open buses.
Just depends on if we're going through extra times.
Just wait for the train to come to a stop. When Mr. Leonard gives me the okay, we'll unload you. We'll go down this vestibule in the back here. So just take your time after we come to a complete stop. Be careful going down the steps. And again, I want to thank you for riding with us and I hope you had an enjoyable time.
Thank you.